right, we're live. Welcome back, everyone. J-Bone here for Smash This Podcast. And this is not going to be your average show this evening, folks. No, we've got a special guest this evening, straight out of the Impact Zone, straight out of Battle Arts Academy. Mr. Dustin Cameron is joining us this evening. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you on. I haven't done an interview in over 2 years, and I'm not going to lie. I was a little nervous, but I'm more excited than nervous because to have the chance to talk to someone like you, someone up and coming in the industry, is pretty exciting.
Well, it's a pleasure. I could break that streak for you.
Right? It's been a while. It's gotta dust off the old interview skills here, the few that there are. But I wanted to start out with a bit of a serious question. Last night on Impact Wrestling, we saw Killer Kross do something unimaginable to someone who's close to you, Mr. A lot of fans know him as Santino Marella. Impact fans now know him as Anthony Corelli, your trainer. Can you give us any kind of update as to his condition?
I'm not sure. We haven't even seen him since that incident now with Killer Kross. And I think one of my biggest questions, and I mean, knowing Killer Kross seems to just be going off for whatever reason on anybody he can. I'd love to know why he's targeting, of all people, the funny man, Santino Marella or Anthony Corelli. I mean, I don't know one person who has a bad thing to say about Anthony. Although I think I could probably think of one person who might have something out for Anthony after Thursday. So don't want to point any fingers yet, but I think I have a pretty good idea who might be behind this.
Yeah, and that would be a very interesting combo as far as people being tied together. But hey, let's talk about that. You had a match last night with the champ, Austin Aries.
I did.
Now, it didn't fare out as well as I think you hoped it for, or as other fans may have wanted it to. But if you're willing to talk about it a little bit, what was that experience like? What did it feel like?
Man, it was insane. Just sitting backstage, and I mean, I'm sure you saw the video of us training and kind of warming up before the match. And I mean, I was nervous. I mean, I can't lie. I mean, I'm 4.5 years in, and I mean, Austin Aries is like an 18-year vet. He's got 7 or 8 belts right now all over the world. Huge opportunity for someone who maybe shouldn't have put themselves in that spot. But hey, you know what? I'm taking anything. I'm taking any spots I can. Yeah, I mean, Anthony hyped me up. I'm ready to go, and I'm standing backstage just waiting for my music to hit. I had no idea what they were even going to give me for music. I'm just standing back there waiting for my cue to go out, and man, I just it was like I flipped the switch. I'm like, man, this is real. I got an Impact Championship shot. Here's my debut as a 4.5-year-in kid getting a title shot on Impact. Unbelievable.
That is quite the opportunity. I'm assuming the other gentleman that got a chance at this on what's this show? Oh, Explosion. It's on the GWN network. It's still on my to-do list to do. Who is that gentleman?
You're talking about Aiden Prince? Was that from Windsor a few months ago? Yeah. He's a good guy. I mean, man, I saw that match, and man, he got chopped to hell in that match. I saw him the next day because he was actually my tag team partner to face Desi Hit Squad on their one night only pay-per-view at Battle Arts, and man, his chest was raw, like just raw. Aries just gave it to him.
Wow. Well, we certainly hope the best for Mr. Anthony Corelli, and before we get into like your background and stuff like that, if you had any, maybe I'm putting you out on a limb here, if you had any words that you could say to Killer Kross for what he did, what would you tell him?
Man, you know what? I mean, if I got to get in the ring with Killer Cross, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to end up any better than me and Austin Aries, but I felt the need I needed to back up my trainer in that moment with the Austin Aries issue backstage, and obviously Anthony didn't want me to step in, but I don't care. Nobody disrespects my trainer like that, and to attack my trainer from behind in a stairwell, like what sort of coward are you? I mean, he's a monster of a man. You got to be attacking people from behind in a stairwell, like that's ridiculous. So, I mean, if I got to get in the ring with him too. I don't care. I'm defending my coach till the end. That's ridiculous.
Well, you're a brave soul. You truly are. Yeah, because he's tearing it up all over the world. He's knocking heads in Impact Zone. He's knocking heads down in AAA, House of Hardcore, and someone very similar to his looks like he's in Lucha Underground as well. It's kind of scary how many places he's at. So, well, if that day comes where you two ever cross faces, I'm rooting you on, man.
I appreciate it. I'm going to probably need it, but hey.
So, well, let's back up a little here now. Let's go back to the beginning of your professional wrestling career. How did you get started?
Well, I mean, the whole reason I even knew what professional wrestling was when I was 10 years old. A friend of my mom's at work was having a birthday party, so went to the birthday party. The dad rented the latest video game, which I believe was SmackDown Shut Your Mouth at the time. Ended up playing that. We had some massive tournament, and
that's a classic,
right? Right. I believe I picked Brock Lesnar, not knowing who anybody was at the time at all in the video game, and I ended up winning the tournament. And then I had a bunch of questions like, are these people real? Is this on TV? Like, what is this? I thought it was like a Mortal Kombat and they were all made up characters or something. And no, they filled me in like, CW Network Thursday nights. You got SmackDown. I didn't get Spike at the time, so I could never watch Raw. I would go over to my buddy's house and watch Raw every once in a while, but I got SmackDown every week. And ever since I tuned in the first time, I was hooked. Ever since then, I was telling everybody I wanted to be a wrestler.
That's really interesting. I think that's a first. So you played the game not knowing who these
100%. Had no idea.
That's really something because most anybody that I know buys the game because they're watching it on TV and they want to like create their own, universe, whatever. Because usually what you play in the game, 9 times out of 10 sometimes is better than what you see on TV.
Definitely, yeah, that's for sure.
that's really something. That is unique.
From there, I actually got into indie wrestling for a while. So that same friend, his son, I believe. I think it was his son was wrestling at an independent promotion in Mississauga. At the time, it was called UWA Hardcore Wrestling. And they were doing some crazy stuff in Mississauga. Actually, at St. John's Hall, which Destiny just did a show there a little over a month ago that I got to be a part of, which was totally surreal to be able to wrestle in that same arena. But yeah, they were doing some crazy stuff. And it was all independent guys. They were bringing in some TNA guys like Aries and Sabin at the time. But that was where it really like picked up for me, where I'm like, wow. And they'd come out after the show and talk to you, which made no sense to me. Like I went to one WB show and of course you don't see them. You see them in the ring and then they're gone, right?
Yeah.
But to see independent guys walk out, I didn't know the difference between them being, the same superheroes I saw on TV or just average guys trying to make it. So to me, they were superheroes. And ever since then, I was like, this is it. I have to do this. I think my parents figured I'd grow out of it, and I never did, especially after seeing the hardcore stuff. I think they really hoped I'd stop doing it.
That's really something. So there's different types of pro wrestlers out there. Some only do their thing in the ring and then walk away from it. They keep it separate, similar to like Sami Zayn. Now on the other spectrum, someone close to him like Kevin Owens lives it 24/7. We'll wrestle, we'll talk about it 24/7.
Sure.
Where do you fit into this spectrum?
I don't know, because I only have maybe two friends or so that are outside of the wrestling business that actually even care about wrestling at all. So when I'm with my, like childhood friends and stuff, I really don't talk wrestling too much. Of course, they ask me because I'm in it, but other than that, I don't really get to talk wrestling too much with them. So in that respect, I guess I kind of leave it at home a little bit, but I mean, I try to watch as much as I can outside of that. And I try to, be around like-minded people. Because, I mean, the only way to get better is to watch more and to learn more. So I really try and spend my time with people in the wrestling business that I'm friends with that just want to talk wrestling all the time.
That's your homework in a sense.
100%. 100%. And I mean, long car rides. What else are we going to talk about? 6 wrestlers in a car for a 6-hour drive or so to Pennsylvania. I mean, it's a long drive, but we can fill it with a lot of wrestling talk.
Have you done more? Now you're from Canada.
I am. Yeah.
Have you done more wrestling around where you're from, or have you done more in the United States?
Most of what I've done has been in Canada. I did break into like the New York scene maybe about a year ago. Didn't stay there too long. Just kind of bounced around and stuff. It was like a friend of a friend got me in, and it just the dates started conflicting with bigger things I was doing in Canada, so I just couldn't stick with it. Got a hookup down at Sanctuary, which is in Pennsylvania, which has this amazing venue inside of a church. He's literally gutted a church, put a ring inside, made a stage. It's incredible.
I think I saw one of your pictures on Instagram was you with it was like the arch behind you.
Yes. Yeah. So we're doing a gimmick down there called Canadian content. And essentially the idea is that because he streams, because he technically has TV, of course, the CRTC regulates how much of that must be Canadian content or American content. That's something in Canada that we control how much. I believe it's 33 point whatever % of anything you put on TV has to be Canadian content, whether that means an actor is Canadian on that show or the director or whatever. So that's the gimmick we're playing, is that we're forced to be on that show. So the CRTC allows him to stream in Canada, which is a bit of a falsification, but it's kind of based on a real storyline.
That's really interesting. That's something. Who are some of your favorite wrestlers from the past, and in the same respect, from around the present?
So past, I think one of the ones I got into like at first would have been Edge. Like, I mean, the Toronto boy, I mean, Orangeville, but the Toronto guy as far as WWE was calling him. Loved the whole Rated R Superstar thing. I thought it was just incredible. Like that resonated with me a lot when I was a kid in high school watching. Benoit too, because I mean, Benoit to me was like the epitome of how to wrestle if you try to make me believe it was real. Like he was.
Oh, absolutely. Benoit is one of my favorites too, and I know it's a touchy subject, but I try to keep the two things separate, and I still watch his matches, but it is what it is.
I mean, his intensity in the ring and stuff, I think, is just unrivaled. So it's a real shame that what happened outside of the ring is going to unfortunately tarnish that for the rest of the time. But I feel like I can still respect and admire what he did in the ring, and like you said, keep the rest of it kind of separate.
Absolutely.
Another one was Eddie. Eddie Guerrero was amazing. I used to love his whole gimmick. He was amazing on the mic. Like he was amazing in the ring, but I almost wanted to hear him talk more than I wanted to see him wrestle, because I just thought he was amazing. He was too funny with his, buddy, I lie, all the time. It was just, it got me all the time. Oh, man.
The lying, the cheating, and the stealing. Classic.
It was amazing. Present, I liked Adam Cole actually at Ring of Honor. I'm very curious to see how they move him over in NXT and what they do with him. I remember when I first went to Ring of Honor to do some backstage stuff and help out. He was one of the first guys there that I was like, whoa, this guy's got something. I could see him going pretty far. And then a few months later, they actually picked him up and put him on NXT, which I was not surprised with at all. As far as main roster guys, I mean, when Triple H comes back to do anything, I mean, it's just, it's going to be a good ride. He's an amazing worker, has been around for forever. And, actually Ronda Rousey as well. She's super new, but I love her kind of mix of judo and wrestling, because that's kind of what we try to emulate a little bit at Battle Arts. And even Asuka. Asuka's actually trained by my trainer, Yuki Ishikawa. We had 2 trainers at Battle Arts, being Anthony and Yuki, who was our Japanese trainer. And Yuki actually did train Asuka. So that's a lot of what I'd like to emulate is kind of the Asuka style.
Oh, there you go. If you could have a match with anyone present, like you call it a dream match. If you could pick anyone,
who
would you pick?
It's gonna be a weird answer, but I think I'm gonna say Asuka. I know it's odd to do like the intergender thing, but I think she'd be a real true test of kind of like my coach's greatest accomplishment so far, and then potentially versus me, who could be the next rising star to come out. Because you know what? I mean, there's a lot of opportunities happening for females right now, and intergender matches is kind of being blurred as almost a commonplace now, and not so much just heat for the male wrestler beating up on a woman. And Asuka, I feel like, comes across as someone who can handle herself. I don't think it seems so much like you're just beating up on a little girl who couldn't do anything. I mean, she comes across very capable.
Yeah, it's interesting where intergender wrestling has come within the last, I'd say, handful of years. I'm a huge Lucha Underground fan, and that is one show. I mean, even though it's a show about wrestling, it's not a brand in itself like Impact or WWE. But the women on that show are always booked so strong. They're always very independent thinkers. One of the things that stood out the most within the last couple of years that actually made me a fan of both these was Taya and Brian Cage. I believe they were in a cage match together or something to that effect. And what he put her through was just insane. And the fact that she kept coming, and I think it blew the roof off of what my thoughts were on intergender wrestling. It's like, wow, it's not just here's the guy, here's the woman. It's like, no, there's a good way to do it and have it come off respectfully and
very believable too. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's very interesting. Asuka, wow, wouldn't have picked that one. Let's see here. When you're training or working out, what is your go-to music?
Ooh, I love the music question. I kind of listen to everything. Funny enough, for the longest time I said I would never work out to country. And about 2 years ago, I started to get into a bit of country music because it started to resonate with me a little bit more than the mainstream stuff that was on like 99.9. And that's the typical like gym playlist. And man, I was starting to hate it. So I moved about as far away from it as I could and go to kind of like the country stuff. And I mean, I'm from Whitby, and you know, it's kind of a bit in the country. We're not really out in the sticks, but we're not Toronto either. So country kind of suits. But I actually started working out to country, and it's been going pretty good. Typically, though, before that, it was like Disturbed, and I throw some 3 Days Grace in there too. But usually like Disturbed and some heavier stuff, like Bring Me the Horizon, Alexis on Fire, As I Lay Dying, stuff like that.
Okay, so melodic hard rock, heavy metal. It's like there's like a fine line between it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But country, wow. Yeah. I mean, I listen to country. I go through my phases. I listen to everything from Korn to like classic rock, and even some old school hip hop, like old Beastie Boys. Some old hip hop from back when I was in high school, like Belle Biv DeVoe. I'm like all over the place. Andre Corbeil is in the chat. Good evening to you. Thank you. He says hi. He's the guy that runs wrestlingwithwrestling.com.
Hey Andre, how's it going?
A fellow Canadian.
Hey, perfect. We're taking over.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see. How has your experience been working with Impact Wrestling, Anthony Corelli bringing you into the locker room? How's that all been for you? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's been awesome. So I think a lot of it probably has to do with Scott D'Amore and stuff too. Luckily, we've been so lucky to have him actually doing commentary at Battle Arts at our student shows for, I'm not going to say a year because I don't think it's been that long, but it's been quite a few months, at least half a year, probably 6-9 months now. Yeah, great person to bounce ideas off. He's just so incredibly smart, amazing mind for the business. And of course he has a very high job at Impact as well. So that's been a big part of it. I know Destiny and stuff's been kind of working in conjunction with that. And of course I've been doing some great stuff with Destiny as well. And then Anthony and Scott are, I think, trying to kind of bridge kind of the Windsor curriculum of what they're teaching in the Battle Arts curriculum. So we're having a lot of matches between like their guys. So at our last show, I had a match against Aiden Prince and Reverso, which are some of the top guys out of the BCW school out there that Scott runs. So it's been a really cool experience. And then showing up to Impact, I mean, man, at Rebel Nightclub, I mean, that arena looked amazing. Absolutely amazing. I've never been there as a nightclub, but seeing the lights, it looks like it was set up to be a wrestling arena. Once you changed it to look like that, I mean, it didn't look out of place. It didn't look like we shoved a wrestling thing in a nightclub. It looked like it was made to host wrestling. At least that's what I thought.
Yeah, like it came off really unique on TV. From a fan standpoint, I gotta say, I really had no clue. You know, you've seen, like you said, you've seen wrestling rings set up in bars where there's like a row of seats around the back wall, and you got this much space between the ring and the wall, and
And it looks out of place.
it does, and it's like, wow, these guys really wish they had more room to work, and you can't even jump off the top rope because the ceiling's right there. This place looked massive. The
Yep.
only thing that was hard to tell was like how many people were really there for like Slammiversary and the tapings, and like how many people were behind the lights up in the balcony. It's real hard to tell. Do you have like a number on how many people were there for the tapings?
I do not know number wise at all.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I know for Slammiversary though, the place was rammed and we could not pull out enough seats. There was so many people who ended up standing because we had all of our seats out behind hard cam. There must have been 20 rows of people, and we were still putting more chairs out. And at that point, we ran out, and there was literally people standing in the aisleways. And it was my job at some points to kind of corral some of those people just to kind of help, because it was ridiculous. It was absolutely incredible.
You were there for that.
We were, yeah. So I was there all 3 days. I was there for Slammiversary and the 2 days of tapings.
Oh, that's awesome that you were able to be up. I mean, you know, be a part of it and to soak it in.
It was incredible. And then I went upstairs to where the balcony was, and there was actually a VIP area up there with a screen. So we actually snuck into the VIP area for a little bit and hung out there. But man, like the upstairs was just as packed. There's probably about like 3 rows of people. It wasn't seats because there was like these nice couches and stuff upstairs. But there was about 3 rows of people standing looking down over the balcony. Slammiversary was just incredible. First days of tapings was pretty good. It definitely wasn't as much as the pay-per-view. Second day was about the same. Like the 2 days of tapings for the show was still quite a bit. Upstairs wasn't as much, but like downstairs, the floor was still packed.
That's very cool. It seems like a heck of a place, and Impact is actually going back there for their next set of tapings in another couple of weeks, it looks like.
Yeah, 12th and 13th. Don't have any information on what I may or may not be doing with that, but I'll definitely be showing up either way to support it, because, I mean, regardless, they're a Canadian company now. They've moved a lot of their offices now back from Nashville to Liberty Village, actually, in Toronto. And they, I mean, I got to support Canadian wrestling when it's that big, right?
Yeah, and it's really good that they are. I mean, you know, God bless the fans down in Florida, the original Impact Zone down there. But the fact that they're putting this quality of a show in front of a new, what I think of as a very hungry audience. Like they're just, it's a very rich in the wrestling community up there. You know, you think of the history that comes from up there, everything from, like you said, like Edge to the everyone related to Stu Hart's family.
The Hart family is huge. Yeah,
you know, they're icons up there.
You know, I think everybody thinks about Americans as being very patriotic and loving of everything American, but Canadians are just as much the same. Maybe not as openly, but I mean, when there's good Canadian content being put out, we'll come out in droves just to come see. And I think that's what we saw at Slammiversary, was just every Canadian going, man, this is some really good TV that's being produced and made in Canada with actually quite a few Canadians on the card.
Yeah, pretty cool. So are there any upcoming events that you would like to plug or promote?
So the biggest one probably will be Destiny. I believe it's the 25th at the Don Kolov Arena in Mississauga. That's the typical Battle Arts Arena. It's a one night only pay-per-view for Impact. I will be on that, I believe, in it's a kind of a young blood a match. I don't know if it's a triple threat or a 4-way yet. I think we're trying to get as many people in there as we can and get as much exposure as we can for a lot of young up and comers in Canada and in that Ontario in its own. Because I mean, Ontario itself, not even talking Canada, but Ontario on its own has a lot of good up and coming talent.
That's an anniversary show, I think I saw in the poster.
I'm not sure about that. I know it's called Bad Intentions. I don't know if it's an anniversary show of any kind.
Oh, I might be thinking of a different one that I saw. That's another, because I know I saw.
BCW. You're talking about the Border City Wrestling show in Windsor.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's Scott Demore's running out there at Border City Wrestling. They draw. They fill up the St. Clair College. They have one of the gymnasiums there, and they put the ring in there. And they've done the tapings for Impact before Slammiversary were done from that same arena, and they draw pretty much around 2, sometimes more than 2,000 each time. Like, they pack the place.
Not bad. Some of the when Impact Wrestling was really starting to branch out into NOAH, AAA, north of the U.S., up into Canada, and they really started to grab hold of that relationship up there. And they showed some of the BCW matches, and I can't remember. I think it was a couple women's matches and a couple other matches. They were showing sporadically, like one match here, one match they would show down in Crash.
Yep.
But I'm pretty sure that was some of them was Scott Demore stuff.
I believe so. Yeah.
That's pretty slick.
Funny story about NOAH, actually. NOAH is an awesome promotion down over in Japan, obviously. But one of the guys from there, actually, his name's Kaito Kiyomiya, and he's one of their up-and-comers. I actually got to have a match with him at Battle Arts, and man, he's incredible too. We had an awesome match at Battle Arts.
What's the first? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying something to YouTube. It is on there, so I'm sure you can find it.
Oh, there you go. What is the furthest you've? I know I'm repeating myself from the question I asked from the show the other day, but I'm going to ask it again for
no problem.
for my folks that watch here. What's the furthest you've traveled in the world of wrestling to get to someplace to wrestle?
Pennsylvania so far is the farthest I've gone. It was about a 7-hour drive down to Hazleton, Pennsylvania for that Sanctuary show. That in itself, like I said, it's in a church. It has its own real weird story. They call themselves a stunt studio, so they don't even call it professional wrestling, and that's really just an FU to the athletic commission in that state. The guy who runs it was a wrestler for years. I think he debuted in 2001, 2002, but he's actually a stuntman, and he's essentially making the argument that if that athletic commission didn't exist and all the definitions that they're using didn't exist, wrestling would still happen, and you wouldn't need an athletic commission.
That's really something. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know how to ask this. Because when you first were describing it, it almost sounded like he was referring it to almost like a really good version of backyard wrestling or something.
No, it's a lot more professional than that.
Okay.
It comes off just like any other really high, well-produced independent promotion. But the way that he's changed it is he takes the bottom rope off the ring because they've described the ring as 4 sides and 3 ropes. So he makes it 2 ropes. So you have the top in the middle and no bottom rope. Again, just to screw with their definitions. He calls us all stuntmen carrying out scripts. We're no longer, wrestlers in a wrestling match. And he's like, if I change all the definitions, everything is still happening exactly the way that it would at any other professional wrestling show. But you can't tell me that I have to pay you 10% of my show. And you don't tell me that I have to have a license for my show. And you don't have to license all the wrestlers. Because realistically, it is just a money grab. In the end, it really is. And he's essentially legally fighting them in court to say, no, this is BS. I'm not paying for this, and neither should my wrestlers.
That's really something. So he's really trying to fight the system on this.
Yep. I think it actually made the news. So I didn't even know about what they were before that, but it made the news about 1.5 years ago that he was doing that. But yeah, then I headed down there about 6 months ago, and it's awesome. He's a great guy.
Mr. CM Styles in the chat, Hazleton, my old hometown. Nice.
Ask CM Styles what the deal with the. Well, I guess I'll ask him. CM Styles, what's the deal with the 30 churches or so in Hazleton? Because I believe only 10 of them really work as churches now, and a lot of them have been gutted out and changed into other things, which I'll admit is super cool. Like, there's a gym across the street from the sanctuary that's literally been turned into a gym, and it's awesome. But there's 30 or 40 churches the instant you drive into Hazleton.
It'll be interesting to see what Styles says to that.
Yeah.
While we're waiting for that answer, I don't have too many more questions for you, but do you have any oh my goodness, Styles, gotta love him.
What have I started?
YouTube loves to censor the chat, and he says it's a shithole. Oh goodness, Styles. That's okay. I made it. I made the comment public. You have an option to hide it or put it forward.
Sure.
It's funny. Do you have any? I don't have any more questions, but do you have any more words that you want to say to your fans out there in your experience so far of being on TV with Impact Wrestling and your training and all that?
Battle Arts Academy is amazing. If you guys are around in Mississauga, come check it out. Come check out our shows. Come check out Destiny. We're all over Ontario, typically Western and Northern Ontario. We haven't branched out east so far. But, yeah, definitely come check us out. We're going to be doing some shows in, like, Sarnia and I think Niagara coming soon. Definitely check out BCW because BCW's in Windsor and they're killing it. And obviously watch Impact on Thursday nights to see what else happens with me. And look up Dustin Quicksilver because you'll find me on Google or Instagram or anywhere else under that name for now.
I saw that's your name. You're Dustin Cameron on Impact Wrestling, but Quicksilver is that your independent name?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, funny story about the name Dustin Cameron. They ended up using my real name for whatever reason. I didn't ask. That was just how they ended up going with it. But I was watching the video, I think, of our first interview where we were backstage. It was on YouTube with me, Anthony, and Aries. And I was reading some of the comments. And I think one of them was just like, Dustin Cameron? Like, what an idiot. Pick one first name and stick with it. And realistically, it's my real name. So I didn't have a choice in the fact that that's my name. But then the funny story, even beyond that, is my mom wanted to name me Cameron because she liked the name Cameron so much. So I would have actually ended up being Cameron, and then he probably really would have had some ammunition. But yeah, I was just reading it and laughing, going, "Idiot, that's my real name." Like nobody picked that.
I thought it was a good name, whether it was legit your name or not. I'm like, Dustin Cameron. It's got kind of a, I don't know. It just sounded like it's like a man's name, I don't know.
There we go. I'll take it.
It's like my son. His name is Eric, and I wanted to name him Dominic, and then I'm like, man,
there you go.
That's just a solid name. And then she's my ex now, but she's like, he just doesn't look like a Dominic. I'm like, what's he look like then? And so the rest of
tell one of that young what they look like? I don't even know if I would know.
I know. It's just, I'm like, all right, this one's set in stone. I guess not. So, well, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on. And thank you so much for spending some of your time to come on here. Yeah, and I can't wait to see what comes down the road for you and in Impact Wrestling. So far, you've had a short but amazing journey, and I can't wait to see what's next. And let's hope that everything fares well for your trainer, Mr. Anthony Corelli.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Tune in Thursday. Thanks for having me on.
We certainly will. Thanks, and thanks everyone for watching. Tune in real soon. Probably Sunday night we'll be doing the Lucha Underground review. I apologize for not doing it live. I usually do it on Wednesday nights. It's just been too much stuff going on, prepping for this, everything else, life in general. And don't forget, folks, there's plenty more of this where it came from. But check out the rest of the videos in your spare time on the channel. Don't forget to smash that like button, smash that sub button, and ring that bell for notifications so that you know when more of my content hits your screen. Thanks again, Dustin. Good night, folks.
Thanks a lot.